Shalom, shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all honor and glory to Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, Bahashim, Kakwadash. Double honors to the elders and apostles of the Great Millstone, and peace and salutations unto the elect of the nation of Israel, starting up with the 144,000, which will be the ruling governing body in the kingdom of heaven, which should be all men, 144,000, which should be the creme de la creme of the 1/3 here in America, right? Right, which a lot of the 1/3 as well outside of 144,000 would be the large multitude, which would be men, women, and children that would be saved. 2/3 of our people will be destroyed here in Babylon the Great in America, right? You have the rebels that will be destroyed, scattered abroad. You have some elect that's scattered abroad across the world, right, across the four corners of the earth, which are Israelites, who the world ignorantly and willingly calls black, Hispanic, Native American, Puerto Rican, Dominican, Jamaican, Haitian, Guatemalans, Panamanians, Cubans, right? We are the Israelites. I'm really Rummy. Come back at you with another lesson about this big controversy going on with this NBA player. His name is Jaden Ivey. If you haven't heard or you don't know, he spoke out against the rainbow community, Skittles community, right? And he called it unrighteousness, and he ain't wrong, right? But you got to understand, we live in a world that's ruled by the wicked, and there's consequences to, speaking out against the wicked, especially when you on a level like he is, which it really ain't nothing compared to what Esau really got. But, matter of fact, let me get Job 9:24 real quick. I'll start off with that Job 9:24, right? Because with the wicked being in rule, there's a wicked vibration in the earth being pushed, and things that aren't beneficial to you, according to the scriptures, are being pushed. Right, it's being uplifted, it's being esteemed. Right, it's good. This is Job 9:24. It says, "The earth is given into the hand of the wicked. He covereth the faces of the judge thereof. If not, where and who is he?" Right, which that's to certain people. Right, and in particular, it's not about skin color, but a lot of them, they look like pale people. Right, Caucasians. That's who the wicked is. Right, which we know we have Israelites that look like Caucasian people. Not every single person that looks Caucasian is an Edomite, but the majority of them, they do look like that. But it's the spirit that's in them, and they just so happen to look like that. But these people are ruling the earth, and they are pushing this vibration, right? He spoke about Pride Month, which I believe that they coined that in June. They teaching this in schools. Right, and we know what that is. It's same gender, people liking the same gender and stuff. We know what that is, right? They may take this video down, but hey, it is what it is, right? If this earth was righteous, that wouldn't be a thing being pushed. It wouldn't even be allowed, But since we're under the rulership of the wicked, these things are being pushed, and you get canceled. Right, you get money, right? People disassociate themselves from you. This is what happens. But you gotta question, if you a Jake man, we are in the curses. We not ruling or running stuff. You gotta question, if you gonna follow the Lord or you gonna be with this world, right? But you can't be a person of his status and saying anything you want. It just doesn't happen. But let me play the video of him speaking.
Speak what we please. Don't you have free will to curse, to speak unrighteousness? Doesn't even the world make judgments on certain things? So how is it when the gospel is preached that people hate it, that people don't want to hear it, and they think it's strange when someone preaches the gospel, the true gospel? The world can make statements. The world can proclaim unrighteousness. That the world can proclaim LGBTQ. They proclaim Pride Month and the NBA. They proclaim it. They show it to the world. They say, come join us for Pride Month.
I just read it. The earth was given to the hands of the wicked. The people that own the NBA, the owners of these teams, who's actually giving the money out to the coaches and the players, man, we know who they are, the chosen knights, right? They the ones that's running shit, man. Even the people, even all the government and everything, even outside the NBA, right? These people are wicked, you know. They the ones running shit, man. You know? So that's why they're pushing it and promoting it. You know? And there's nothing you can do about it, you know? But we in a time to where all things are being exposed, coming to the light, right? And it's all the will of the Lord of everything being exposed, and even this happening. Now, whether it's a psyop or not, that remains to be seen of him. You know, maybe they could have told him to speak out and say all these things and to, you know, to get a reaction out of people and see who's on what side, you know, because, like I said, we at a time in this country where people are divided more than ever, which is good, right? It's a good thing. But, let me see if I can find a scripture. Make himself a prey. You see, Salakia. Part from eagle. The one I want to get is in the book of Isaiah. It's Isaiah 59. And I'll start at verse 14. It says, and judgment is turned away backward. Right, you know, you being held accountable for your sins, your wrongdoings, and justice standeth afar off, and truth is fallen in the street, and equity could not enter. Right, fairness, right, you know. It says, yea, truth faileth, and he that departed from evil, making himself a prey, and the Lord saw it, and it displeased him that there was no judgment. You see, truth faileth, right? Truth faileth. Right? This society that we live in America, man, and even these other countries outside of America, they don't believe in the Bible, man. That's just a cover-up. Yeah, it says in God we trust in the dollar bill, and you'll see it on a lot of people's license plates and stuff. But the guy of the Bible, they don't believe in it because they don't follow, this country don't follow nothing in it. Because you will know what he's saying is true. You will know if you read the scriptures. Right? You wouldn't just believe your bald-headed ass pastor or the damn priest in the damn Catholic church that, you know, be filling on little people. You know, you will know these things are wrong. Right? But once again, with us living in the wicked world and these things being perpetuated in the earth and people ruling, you know, you speak out against these things, they're going to punish you. You know? They're going to take away certain things from you. But you gotta be willing to stand on business, man. But and then add to the point that, you know, like I said, he's in the world. He ain't in this truth. He ain't calling on the name of YASHAMIAHLA. He not out there on the highways and byways teaching. He's in Christianity. Christianity is false, right? When I say Christianity, just the belief in general, right? Because we know what Christianity preaches, that you know, everybody can be saved. And we know that's not true, right? The Lord's only coming for the Israelites, you know, the elected Israelites, should I say. And he ain't coming for no heathen, right? Now, like I said earlier, you have Israelites that look like the heathen, but, you know, I just had to say that because he's in Christianity, that this Jake, you know. But, like I said, what he said was right, though, you know. How can you say this and say that and proclaim this and still and be dragged for it and to lose your job for it? Because these people are doing these things. They participate in that activity, right? And they're the wicked. They're evil. If you were righteous, you would understand that. You know, you would understand that, right? Let me see. Evil men understand not judgment. This is Proverbs 28, verse 5. Matter of fact, I'm gonna start at verse 4. This is fire right here. This is they that forsake the law praise the wicked, but such as keep the law contend with them. You see, and being liking the same role as you, that's off, man. You praising the wicked because you are wicked, right? And that's against the law. We know that sin is transgression of law, and that's a part of it. Right? It says, evil men understand not judgment, but they that seek the Lord understand all things. You see, he wouldn't be surprised and all shocked if he was a true follower of Yahweh YASHAMIAHLA. His name ain't Jesus, right? That's not the Lord's name. The letter J wasn't even invented to the 1500s. So everybody on this whole entire planet is calling on that name. You're calling on a false god, period. And he's not no damn so-called white man, But that's another video for another day. But like I said, the whole situation is bullshit. It is, but that's what happens when you live in a wicked world. And when these things happen, you better be ready to stand, because most people are gonna fold. And he's gonna apologize, man. I don't think he's gonna stand on business. Most of these players, they not ready to lose that wealth and that fortune that they have. They don't want to lose that. The average person don't want to lose that, because that's how they make. That's where they get their money from. That's how they get their bread and butter. That's how they feed their families and stuff. And this is what comes with actually serving Yahweh Shai. Even though he's not calling the name, he's not in the truth. But that's the point I'm trying to make. This is what happens, and this is what's gonna really happen to the true believers of Yahweh Shai. You're gonna lose, on this side, right? And that's what Christians don't really talk about like that. Most people that say they're Christians, they're not ready to speak out and say what's really in the Bible. Most Christians don't even read the Bible. A lot of Christians that's reading the Bible and saying stuff now, they started watching the Israelites, all right? Starting with the elders and apostles, man. They was watching the Israelites, and they take what the Israelites have said, and they start preaching it. They start going out to highways and byways. Before I came into the truth, I wasn't seeing it, no preachers on the streets and going back and forth with Israelites and preaching like that, and calling out multitudes of scriptures. I wasn't seeing that, so. And now you got people, other people talking about the situation with this NBA player. They thinking that they know the Bible and you don't, It baffles me when I see people talking about the Bible when certain situations come up, because they haven't read it like that, and they ain't seen these scriptures, Like I said, Christianity is a big joke, but one thing that is something righteous that he did as far as saying that, but, and him getting penalized for it, like I said, it just shows you what the truth is. It just shows you, who's ruling, and what world we live in, right? This ain't a world that's governed by the Bible, man. No matter what they say or what they have on your license plate or the dollar bill, this ain't the guy of the Bible that this country represents, But let me get this, and ultimately, we're in a time to where you could be thrown in jail for saying certain things like that. That's worse than losing your job, or even put to death. That's what time we coming in, man. I think these certain situations when these celebrities speak out, say certain things, these are trial and test runs for what they really want to do to the real believers of Yahweh Shai. Like I said, because Christianity is false, even though what he said wasn't wrong, it was biblical, right? But as far as his whole belief system is off, because it's Christianity, and I don't care about what Christian comes across this video. This is Matthew 16 and verse. Matter of fact, I'll start at verse 24. It says, "Then said Yahushua unto his disciples, If any man come after me, let him deny himself, and take up after his cross and follow me." And that's a spiritual thing, right? Deny your flesh, right? Deny the sins, right? If you are Israelites, right? But whosoever, right? Talking about the Israelites, right? When it says whosoever, it's not talking about any nation of people or any heathen, or, you know, that's not what it's talking about. For whosoever will save his life shall lose it, right? Whosoever will lose his life for my name's sake shall find it. What does it mean, save his life? Trying to keep your current possessions, right? To keep your current foundation upheld, you know, with lies and wicked philosophies, right? And being friends with the world. Because I think he says that on another video, if I'm not mistaken. It might be the same video. But, you know, if you want to stay in this world and continue following the ways of this world, you're going to lose your life, right? If you're Israelite, you're not going to be saved. And that's the majority of our people anyway, because salvation and destruction, salvation and damnation is preordained. That's another thing that Christians don't teach. They don't preach that it's ordained, right, or preordained. They don't preach that, not that I know of, you know? So, but it says whosoever should lose his life, meaning whosoever willing to give up their material possessions or to give up following the flesh and committing sin, right, and following things that the world accepts, you're gonna find life, right, if you are part of the elect, right? It says, for what is a man profited if he shall gain the whole world and lose his own soul, right? You know, and like I said, this man, he's an NBA player. He's made millions of dollars, right? You know, but it don't matter if you got that money and, you know, you ain't following the Lord. That don't matter. There's a lot of people who are rich and who are doing wicked things, but when it come down to it, you know, come down that judgment time, you done for. That's what matters. And I think he said that on the video as well. It might have not been in the same video, but that ain't gonna matter, man. The Lord ain't gonna care about what you achieved on the physical level. He ain't gonna care about how much money you got or how many cars you got. That ain't gonna matter, man. It's gonna be about whether you was on the righteous side or the left side, you know. But this is only for the Israelites anyway. You know, the point of this video was to let Jake know, right, what comes with following the Bible in truth and sincerity. Even though, like I said, he's a Christian, but as far as this situation, what he said was right. It wasn't wrong as far as when you talk about the Bible. The Bible doesn't uphold, you know, the Skittles culture. You know, I ain't gonna say the word Pride Month. It doesn't uphold that. It's against that. And in the law in the ancient world, they supposed to be out of here, man. They ain't supposed to be still, you know, living. You know, that's how it's really supposed to be, right? But you know, but in this world, man, you know, if you ultimately love this world, right, and you wanna be wicked, you're gonna apologize, or you're not gonna say nothing like that, right? Because you love your life. You know, you want to keep living in this world, right? Let me play the video again.
To celebrate unrighteousness, they proclaim it. They proclaim it on the billboards. They proclaim it in the streets. Unrighteousness. So how is it that one can't speak righteousness? How are they to say that, man, this man is crazy? To the Christian, you're making the wrong statements. How is it that you can tell the man that he can't speak the truth? Because the gospel says, go into all the world and preach the gospel to the whole creation.
I was talking about the Israelites, right? Because the Israelites are scattered throughout all the world, right?
That's what Jesus said to his disciples. He said, go and preach the gospel to the whole creation. Don't we see in the world that...
That's the ESV, that's the wrong version, right? But either way, the world is talking about the Israelites. It ain't talking about just anybody.
People preach what they believe all the time. They hold their big signs up about LGBTQ. They hold their signs up about how abortion is right. So how is it that the Christian, it's a burden to preach the truth?
And Christianity is not even the real threat. It's the Israelites, man. You know, it's the Israelites. Yeah, certain things that Christians say, they know certain things. You know, we'll give you that. But the overall concept of Christianity is not real. It's not the true belief system. It's not the true way of Yahweh Shai, the Lord of the Bible. It's not the truth. Because like I said, they believe, everybody knows what Christianity believes, just like most religions. Everybody can be said that's not the truth. The one and only creator, right? That's the actual real creator, Yahweh Shai. He only is dealing with the Israelites. He's not going to save everybody. He's not dealing with no other nation, man. He's only going to deal with the Israelites. Right? So you can have these people claim they're going to follow the Bible all they want, but if you ain't an Israelite, it don't matter anyway. You got to be a part of the elect, even if you're an Israelite. So, like I said, y'all not the real threat. The real threat is the Israelites going out there preaching out there in the streets, out there in the highways and byways, telling, this man to his face that he's going down, that the Lord is going to put him in captivity. Right? The Israelites are the threat, not you Christians, right? And we gonna really see how a lot of you Christians was really faking the funk when that persecution started, because they gonna come for y'all too, but y'all not the real followers of the Lord, y'all praising the damn, white man, and that's not what he looks like. The Bible clearly says that, I just had to say that, man. I know I already kind of said that already, but that ain't what he looks like, So, but the point of the video, like I said as well, it's just to let you know of, it's to give you an example of how it's going to be, right? To be outcasted, to be demonized, right? To say any type of biblical, anything that's in the Bible that's the truth, that they don't like or that they don't push, they're going to do this to you, right? And a lot of Christians, they're going to get put to death too, but it's going to be in vain because you're not worshiping the Lord. You're not worshiping the Lord. Jaden Ivey, hey, if you see this, man, you got to repent, come to Yahweh Shai. You got to get out of calling him Jesus. That ain't his damn name, right? Cut off them dookie locks. Stop shaving your beard, right? That's a part of the law. If you want to, talk about how they ain't supposed to be doing that because that's in the law, right? There's other laws to keep as well, right? But that is the main one he was talking about, But, this is another example of what you can and can't say, man. If you want to keep your money, man, but you can't chase after that. You gotta follow Yahweh Shai, man. You gotta trust in the Lord with all your heart, So I just want to do a quick video on this, man. Most of you people gonna take that C-hip when it come out, and when you need food to feed your kids, you gonna bow to this, man. You ain't gonna have faith. You ain't gonna be ready to go to the guillotine. You ain't gonna be ready to go to FEMA camp. You gonna bow to this, man. You gonna do what the hell he say, right? Like I said, me and the brother, we did a lesson earlier. We talked about Kyrie Irving, what they did to him. All he did is post a link to the documentary, Hebrews to Negroes. Look what they did to him, right? Lost his deal. I think he got cut from the team. It was something similar, Kanye West, They only gonna do all these things, but it has to be the truth. Why would they go so hard against you and to go that far as to, stop your money, fire you from your job just because you said something? They acting like this man said he was gonna beat up people or stone him or something. He didn't say nothing like that. All he was saying is that it's not righteous to be like that. So hey, keep the faith, Jake. Hey. Pray for more wisdom and knowledge, Pray to be protected in these times. Pray to be the part of the elect, That's what we all striving to be. But this is what comes with, going against the rulers of this world, man, Because they're evil and they're the wicked. But they going down, man. They going to do what they going to do. But the Lord, Yahweh Shai, the real God, is going to do what he's going to do. So, hey, stay vigilant, stay focused, Jake. We almost up out of here. I'm going to close out. I want to give all honor and glory to Yahweh, by Hashem Yahushai, by Hashem Hakodash. Double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone. Till next time, I want to say, Abba Shalom.